Hello everyone, I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. We're going to get started today and do a live broadcast. I want to talk to you about my friend Tony Couch's book that I've used. I got all of his books, and I want to go through a little bit of some of the stuff I've got from it. And so I'll be right back. I'm going to go to my computer. I'll be right back over there. Hold on. All right, I'm here. I'm at my computer now, and I want to go through a little bit about what I've done. When I try to paint something new, it's always a good thing to try to figure out what it is, how it works, particularly if it's a thing like a boat or something you don't understand. It's always good to do a little research. I also was scanning through some of my books that I have from Tony Couch, who's a favorite watercolor painter of mine, and I've been to probably 4 of his workshops, and I just love the way he paints. I love the style. I love his explanations of how to paint, how to do it. And he has several books out. I thought they were out of print, but I did find them on Amazon. So I put a link down below here for you if you want to go to Amazon. I have a little Amazon sellers account. I may make 50 cents or something if you buy a book through that. I don't know. But I'm not necessarily trying to sell the book. I just want to tell you that they are in print and you can get them. The one that I used most for this particular painting was called Watercolor, You Can Do It. And like I said, I thought it was out of print. It's been quite a while since I bought this book. I had him sign it back in 1996 or 98. And so he has a whole series of nautical paintings where he does shrimp boats or boat trawlers. Some are in dry dock, some are out in the ocean, and I just love the way he does those paintings. I love the way he does negative paintings, and I love the symbolism he uses for a lot of his images. And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out how these shrimp boats worked. I really hadn't looked at them, didn't know anything about shrimp boating or how the boats are constructed. And so when you look at somebody's painting, you can't necessarily tell exactly what things are necessarily, particularly if they paint abstractly or impressionistically like Tony Couch does. So I did a just Google shrimp boats and dry dock. You can do that, and you can find tons of images for shrimp boats in all kind of situations, in the water, out of the water, whatever. So I'll just show you quickly a couple of things I picked up. One is sort of it looks like almost an engineering construction drawing of how these things work, where these big arms are, and the center beam, and there's a ladder on the back that's connected to another beam back there. And so it's something that is worth at least trying to understand before you try to paint something, particularly if you're going to paint it big enough that people can tell what it is. Then I also grabbed a quick photo of somebody on a shrimp boat, and it's in black and white, so you can see the main four posts sticking up and sort of how they're connected. There's tons of wires between them. And so using that and using what I saw in some of the photos in Tony's book, I did a rough sketch. This is probably my working sketch to try to figure out how these things hook together and where the net goes and where the lines go and that sort of stuff. So this is a very rough sketch that I started with. And as I got into it more and started to make a composition out of it, I wanted to sort of refine it. So I came up with this, which is what you have on the screen. I'll show you that again in a minute with the grid over it. And this is on my website. You can go out there and grab it and download it and use it. I haven't put the grid version out there yet, but I can put it out there. I'll probably do it after the broadcast. The other thing that Tony Couch taught me, which I hadn't really thought of, is when you're building a composition, you probably heard me talking about making a value map. And I try to do that to try to get an idea of where the darks, lights, and mid values go. And so I have used something I learned from his book in sort of drawing 6 different value patterns. And this is primarily for landscapes, but I think it works for other types of paintings. But landscapes, you can have a background, a foreground, and a middle ground. And each of those can have one of 3 values if you try to simplify it into dark, mid value, and light value. And those those three values can have ranges. They can have like a range of mid values, a range of light values, and a range of dark values. But in essence, there are 6. And so you can figure out a painting, if you can figure out how to get it in one of these value patterns, you'll have a much more successful painting than one that's just sort of mid-value all over and doesn't have any real dark darks or whatever. And so I have, in one of my classes, I have taught this 6 value pattern chart. I've put this chart together to show you what they are. So you have, on the left here, you have the background, middle ground, and foreground, and then across the top, you have the 3 values. You have a dark value for the background, 2 of those. You have the mid value for the background, 2 of those. And you have the light value for the background, you have 2 of those. And then in the middle ground, you can switch these off, have a light value, a mid value, a dark value, a light value, dark value, and a mid value. And for the foreground, you can do the same thing, switch them off again, and have mid-value, light value, mid-value, dark value, mid-value, dark value over here. So the little icon there, the picture, sort of gives you an idea of what I'm thinking when I say that. So it's just a very simplified, tree with the foreground, middle ground, and background. So I use that a lot in trying to explain to people how to get your paintings in sort of a value pattern. And I have just used value map because I usually take a photograph and sort of create my own value map out of it. It doesn't totally fall into this category, but usually there's somewhere this is the underlying principle. So I did that with my sketch. This is kind of an ugly looking picture I want to show you, but the idea is to try to get some mid value in the background, some light, really light around the trees, around the boat and the buildings in the background there, and dark mid value, which is going to be water pretty much, and then a foreground that's a lighter value, but maybe not as dark as the mid value I have in the sky. It'll probably be a little bit lighter, but I'm going to have some ground there and that sort of thing. So I want to explain that to you and let you see it. So here's the grid. Again, I hope you've had a chance to sketch this. It's probably been kind of fast. I've only been online for a few minutes before you tuned in. So I want to go over to my easel now, and I'll talk you through the brushes and paints, and we'll get started painting this thing. So hang on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back at my easel, and I want to have my painting up here. I'm having my sketch up here, actually, and I'll zoom in on it, and then I'm going to go back and I'll tell you what the paper is. It's Fabriano Artistico, 300 pound, 11 by 14 inches, cold press. And so I have my sketch already on there. I've done a little manipulation, a little bit different than maybe the sketch you have. I had a little bit of a perspective problem on the top of the boat there, so I actually had changed a little bit of this line, so that's done in pencil. This is the Sorel transfer paper, the other stuff you see there. Like I said, the sketch is out on the website. You can go get that, and the link is down below in the what you're watching. So let's talk about the paints and brushes. This is my standard Sterling Edwards palette. Most of these are Sterling Edwards brushes. I have a small bristle brush here that's a nice blender. I have a 1-inch flat and a 1/2-inch flat nylon brushes, and I have 3 rounds. I have a 12, 8, and 4 round, and I have a script liner. And because of this, painting has some interesting shapes in it that are kind of small. I got a 1/4-inch flat here. I also have another script liner here that it's a little bit bigger than the script liner I have. And then I have 3 very small script liners from Princeton. These are from Princeton. This is a Sable, Kolinsky Sable. And then I have a couple of other small script liners because of the rigging on this boat. These script liners are really meant for doing the fine rigging of boats. That's where they got the name rigger from. So that's the brushes. So let's talk about the paints. These are Holbein transparent watercolors, and the colors go around the palette this way. It's Payne's Gray, Cobalt Blue, Ultramarine Deep Blue, Royal Blue, Permanent Violet, Green Gray, Burnt Umber, Burnt Sienna, Quinacridone Scarlet, Bright Rose, Brilliant Orange, quinacridone gold, permanent yellow deep, and permanent yellow. So that's the paint. You don't have to have all those paints, but you should have a yellow that has a green tint to it and a yellow that has an orange tint to it. You should have a red that has a purple tint to it, like this quinacridone scarlet here. And you should have one that has an orange tint to it, which this brilliant orange is. You should have a couple of earth colors like siennas and umbers. Throw a gray-green in there, but the blues have a blue that has sort of purple in it, and you have a blue that has some green in it. So if you have blues that are like that, reds that are like that, and yellows like that, that's all you need to make about any color you need. So with that said, I think I'm going to reorient my, get my palette on the canvas, move my camera, get it set up here for you so you can see most of it without being interfered with. And so let's get going on this. I think that's all I wanted to tell you. Tony Couch has another book called Keys to Successful Painting. A lot of the topics that I talk about periodically come from things I've learned from Tony Couch or from his books. And he's a very good artist, and he's also a very good teacher. He still gives workshops, even though I took my first workshop off of him in 1995, and he's still giving workshops. So I'm going to just wet down the sky a little bit here with some clear water. Want to get the paper a little bit wet, so when you put a sky in, you want to have it soft, and you want it to diffuse, and so I'm just going to wet this down a little bit here, see if we can get some good sky going in here. This paper, 300-pound cold press, it does take a lot of water. It does take a while to dry off. So I'm going to use sort of a cobalt blue for the sky, and maybe change the color as it gets down toward the horizon a little bit. Maybe add some purple in it or something. But let's just start up here, start putting some sky in. And I want this to be sort of a mid-value. And I'm going to try to kind of go around some of these objects here if I can. I'm going to put a little building back here in the background that wasn't in the original sketch I worked with, but I think it's going to help add add a little bit of depth. Sort of painting around these guys here to get some, just so I can leave some area to have sort of a white, or at least a light okay, so leaving some gaps in there, leaving some holes. Add a little of my purple in here maybe, pick up some other colors. While this is still wet, I'm going to come over here and make it a little darker on the left side. Again, since it's moist, it's going to blend together pretty well. So I'm just sort of putting this in without regard to anything other than trying to miss some of my objects here that I want to save white space for. Okay, something like that, like this over here. Okay, take some clear water and just throw some, kind of make these edges so they're not quite so hard. And then come down here and start putting in a few things around the top of the boat. one of the things I hear Tony Couch talk about in his workshops is that, and he references, thanks Marvin, glad to be back. Hi, Joe Pittman from Wills Point, Texas. Welcome. Thank you guys. Hope you're all going to be able to paint along with me here, and if you can't, you can get the sketch and do it from afterwards. Tony Couch refers to one of his mentors, I think, Edgar Whitney. And Edgar analyzed hundreds of paintings that were done by famous artists at the time, and as he analyzed them, he determined that there were these repeating patterns, which he ended up calling value patterns. And that's where the idea of these value patterns came from originally, and Tony Couch took it and put it in his books and refined it and made it a little more valuable for today's painters. He teaches it in his workshops, and so it's something that's worth understanding. And so you see what I'm doing? I'm going back into that sky, and I usually tell you to stay out of the sky. Once you put it in, leave it alone, because I'm getting back runs and trying to talk too much and paint. So back runs because I got water on my brush, right? So how do you get them out? Well, you can get a hard edge out by putting a little water on it, but if you put too much water, you end up getting more back runs. See there? So I'm just going to sort of dry this out a little bit and see if it kind of looks like clouds maybe in there. So you're watching me fix a problem already here. All right, so that's sort of a mid value. I have a few darks in there, but not too many. And that's pretty much the background that I want to have. This area here, I'm going to have to get a smaller brush in around here. This is, I'm going to get a darker color for this water. It needs to be darker than the sky. So let's get a little bit of Payne's gray and some of my blues, and see if we can put in here. Again, I'm doing a lot of negative painting here. Let's see, I'm going to have, all right, this is where I'm going to use my that 1/4 inch brush here shortly. So this is just some of the water that's kind of behind here. I'm helping to make a foil out of this so that it lights up the background a little bit, or lights up the foreground, I should say. There's a ladder right here. I'm going to just go ahead and try to paint them in right now while I'm at this brush. It needs to be darker. Okay. Okay. Have some look like there's a little bit of okay, I may come back and put another little coat on that. I don't know. I'm going to throw in just some grasses here over in this area. Pick up a few of my some greens over here in this area. This is sort of a little embankment over there. And make it darker, put some browns in there. Okay, so I've got a interesting house there. Come back and put some trees in this area over here. I want to get a good dark set of trees in this area around this house. And using green, gray, green, and just pop them in there. A little bit of here. Something like this. All right, so I've outlined that house pretty well, or that little house sitting back there, and I think that'll be fine. That's all I need to do there. Maybe I'll scrape in a couple of trees back here. It's probably too soon. Let me see. Too soon. I've told you before about scraping in with your razor blade or whatever. And if you scrape it too soon, you'll get black line because it'll fill back in. If you scrape it too late, you won't get anything. Scrape it just right, you'll get a little white line back there. So don't need to do too much of that, but just something like that. Looks like there's some trees, something going on back there, maybe a scrape or two like this. All right, that's it. Don't want to do too much. All right, so that little piece of background is falling into place. Pick up a little bit of my reddish color. Let's go ahead and put this in. Might as well finish this guy off back here. A little bit of red for the roof, and a little tone in it. Like that. A little front on him here, a little dark Eve. So it's that. I got a dock sitting over there. I'm going to put some color in right here. Little dock sticks out. Put a couple of posts on him like this. All right, don't need to do much else there. That's good enough. All right. Okay, so I've got my ladder started here. I've got my boat started here with the around the boat. I'm going to change brushes, get me a flat, half-inch flat. This boat I want to keep mostly white. I thought I wanted to make that a blue stripe around there. I'm changing my mind. I'm going to make it more of a violet or a reddish stripe around here. Okay. All right, Kind of sets the angle of the boat. Down here, I think I want some more water in here in this area. Want it to be have a little tone in it, but not too much. Right in here, I want it to sort of bleed up. So I'm painting vertically again, folks, you know that, and so I usually have a little more trouble with my painting in this way than I otherwise might if I were painting flat on a tabletop. If you have any questions, folks, put them in the little chat window there. I'll try to get to them. I'll try to see if I can answer them, or if you have a question. Under here, just okay, there's something like this. And then up here, I want a little bit of my ochre color. Warm it up a little bit. And put a few other colors in there maybe, what the heck. And just sort of let it bleed together, soften off a little bit. So I was talking about Edgar Whitney, and he's the one that coined this phrase about making symbols for everything. So that's one of the things that I know Tony Couch talks about. He's got symbols for everything. And so when you're trying to paint like objects on a boat like this, you're not really painting all of the things. You're just putting a impressionistic mark that looks like the thing you're painting, just like those trees up there. I didn't paint those trees, I just left you with things on the edges that look like trees. Couldn't be anything else but trees, right? I also see a three alike here. That's called cloning. You don't want to clone, so do something with it. Cloning destroys sort of a good composition. If you do 2 or 3 things, try not to make them look identical. Do something to change it. Add some dark. Looking for abstract shapes. Okay, so that's that. These little buildings over here, let me work on those. I think I've got some orange here. I'm going to throw in maybe a little bit of that yellow color. I didn't have the actual orange, but I had the yellows with some red in it. Let's put that down here on the bottom of this boat. Okay. And underneath this boat, we're going to have some darker colors here. It's got to be darker than that, I think. I want this to be fairly dark. All right, now I'm doing another negative painting around the propellers. Okay, get some dark in here, like that. And then let's just put a little bit of a thing for the rudder right here. All right. That's a rudder, whether you believe it or not. Okay. So I'm just going to hitting and missing here, different spots. I'm trying to work my way around. And now let's see. I think around this light, I'm going to have to get maybe a smaller flat brush. I need to paint around that light a little better. I didn't really fill that in back here like I wanted to with the sky color. So let's see what I can do here, if I can make that probably a little darker. So we've got a little symbol here for a light. We've got a symbol here for like a radar. What do you call it? It rotates around for a radar. I'll put some more of this dark on top here. Okay, so I want this to sort of blend in a little bit. So let's take a wet dry brush and a wet dry brush. How's that? A brush that's got some water in it, but it's okay. That's close. I can always do this better, folks. You can do it better, I'm sure. When I'm not painting in front of the camera. Okay, so that's that. Let's go back here and get some gray paint, maybe some Payne's gray. See what this looks like by putting it on back here. I want that to be light. Very light, very light. Gray building there, a little bit of a bluish gray over here maybe. I'm using this number 4 round here. Okay, a little bit of shadow in here. Okay, I'm going to try to keep some of this fairly light if I can, if I don't forget. It will lighten up. So that's like one of the buildings back there that they use to store stuff in. I don't know. Okay, just put in whatever feels right to you there. Put in some other colors here. It's kind of warm. Let's cool it down a little bit. Trying to go around this tip of the boat so that we have a definite edge there that you can see. Tip of the boat. And let's just throw in some other colors here. Hard edge, soft edge. And or dark maybe in here. Okay, there we go. Let's throw in some Warm color there, cool color there. So it's these color changes, this warm to cool, cool to warm, that help add excitement to use most paintings. And you can just sort of sometimes just drop in a color and just sort of let it run together like I did right here. Okay. All right, let's see here. These little I'm just putting a little shadow side on these posts back here, so in a little bit of a dock there. Some more color in it under. And then we've got more dark down below. So that's standing up over the water. The water is going to come underneath there. I'll come back and put that in a minute, but just wanted to get some stuff in here to make it look like there's a little dock back there. I can come in and put some fine-tune some stuff in there. I'm going to keep this fairly light here. I'm going to just, there we go. All right. I don't want that to be super interesting because I don't particularly want you to look back there. But I do want to have it look like it's representative of something. A little door in there, maybe a window or two. And maybe there's a window over here. I don't know. Something like this. It's probably good enough. Walkway there. Make sure it's blocking in the end of that boat here. Okay, so all this is going to be water similar to what we got over there. Same color. Pull it across. So I'm just using this paint that's in my palette, sort of throwing it out here. Okay, don't need to do a whole lot more than that. Leave some rough texture in there. I may want to come back and darken this down, maybe. I don't know, it's probably going to need to be darker. But certainly those underlying posts there will be. Let's see now, what I got here. Let me get my flat. Ah, yeah, Lindy, these things take on a ugly, they take on the uglies when you're working them, so that they, you have to kind of put up with the uglies a little bit to get to where it starts making sense. And here we want to come down. So I'm lightening this up, putting some nice interesting color in it so that it's got some mixtures of warm and cool. And this is going to be grasses in here, dark. These are going to be dark browns. I'll try to outline this ladder here again with negative painting if I can. I'll go back and see if I can touch up this water back here. I think this needs to be darker in here. Actually, I want to make the posts a little darker. Okay, that looks more like they're in the water now. You can actually see them. I'm going to blur the bottoms of them so that looks like they're in the water. These ones up here, I'm going to make a little bit of darker edge on the right side. Most of the light, I think, is trying to come from the left, so let's take things and put a shadow on the right. We can, and underneath, just hit and miss like that. Okay, now that's looking more like a dock sitting back there than it did before, at least. Where's my corner? Here. All right, stop messing with it. In this little area here, I want a few high windows. Okay, it's that. These have, I want them to have a shadow on the right side. These are oil barrels, in case you didn't know what they were. And give them a little bit of a tone here. Like that. Little shadow beside them over there. Maybe we just have a bit of a something on the top up here that sort of ties it in. And let's change the color a little bit. Another. All right, these are looking like they might be barrels of some kind. Separate them out, put a little bit of a line between them. All right, then here we've got the base of this. It's going to be a little darker. Outline this barrel a little bit more. All right, I'm going to try to find this grassy color here if I can, get some of my yellows together and see if I can put some of this grassy color like right in here maybe. I'm doing a lot of painting around things. Okay. So I'm picking up some of my yellow and my Payne's gray, and it's making sort of a greenish colored ground here. Throw in a few more burnt siennas in here, maybe some greens even. So all this foreground stuff here is not all that important. I do want to have a nice little sort of a reflection coming from this boat. I want this to look like there's some water in here, so I'm going to try to paint around some reflections. Something like that. This is where I want to throw in that. See if I can do that painting behind this. I want you to see a ladder there. And this is it's going to be the color of the boat, Okay. I don't know if that's dark enough. Probably can't see that well. A little darker. It's going to lighten up some. So let's put that in. It needs to be darker under there anyway. This is shadow. Okay, so I've got a symbol started for ladder there, but I just got to make sure that the rest of it has the color of what's behind it if I'm going to paint it in the negative shape. So this is going to be dark grass, outline my propellers. There we go. So this is sort of just the first layer of stuff. I'm going to try to come back and put a few more things in there, but I wanted to get this laid in. Okay, so I'm painting everything but the boat, but you see the boat starting to show up. All right, let me get these, put these dark bolsters in, or whatever they call them, that's holding this boat up off the ground so they can get underneath it and work. To be fairly dark with a bit of a light edge maybe. There's that one. This is going underneath. There's that one. Got one more back here that sort of sticks up and goes underneath. All right, now these things look like they're all glued on, right? So we got to do something about that. We can't let them just sit there hanging out. So let's soften the edges on the bottom. Make it look like we got some grasses growing in there. Same over here. Let's put him into the ground a little bit so we have some. This color needs to be darker there. All right, keep turning around looking at the monitor here behind me. All right, over here I need just a little bit of blue to have just a little bit of a blue tone to it. It is out of the light, but it's white, so I don't want it to be really dark. I do need to have this corner right here darker. Why is that? That's the change, plane change accent they call it. When something goes out of the light, it has to be darker right at the edge where the plane changes. I did it there. I didn't do it some other places, like up above here. This area right here should be slightly darker. Kind of getting nitpicky now, but this is kind of what makes things look more realistic when you can give them a the right kind of shadows and that sort of thing. All right, here we've got, this guy is going to be that color. Okay, now let's look at this boat itself. I wanted to have a blue, a blue band around it up there. So let's see what I can do to do that. Here we got water blended out. Okay. This deck may be just a little darker. Okay, nice little walking deck right there. This area is going to be a little darker, maybe. I can make it darker. All right, getting some running. Okay. All right, now, see if I can get that other blue stripe around the bottom here, right here. That blue really lightens up. Royal blue in there, see if that makes it darker. There we go. All right, so now I'm getting a little bit of that color I want in there. Symbols for tires that you serve as bumpers. See if I can make them a perfect circle. Okay, let's see. There's got to be a little bit of a shadow under here if it's like that. A little bit of a shadow so that it's not perfectly round because it's at an angle. Needs to be a little bit of shadow around here too. Right? That's the three-dimensional thing. Just add a little bit of a shadow there. All right. Throw in a few more lines here. All right, now you're seeing the swoop of this, seeing the come on, I got too much water in there and hit the wrong. That's good enough. Okay, maybe just a little tone up here, maybe. Yeah. Helps me finish out that ladder. All right. The ladder should have a couple of those beams there. A little bit of a shadow on the side of him. Make it look three-dimensional. Shadow does it every time. Okay, more realistic. These a little darker in here. This one needs to be darker. So they look like there's some sort of a wooden structure there that goes underneath and helps hold this thing up off the ground, which is what they're supposed to do. All right, this little roof up here, I think I'm going to give him some color on the top of this. Using my, what am I using? Number 4 round. All right, put some tone in there and then wash it out. Okay, some more of that tone down here. Let's put it down there. Is it looking like a boat, folks? A shrimp boat? Okay, corner. I think that corner has got to be darker right here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, a bit of light coloring here on this guy. A little bit of paint, a lot of water. All right. This top maybe needs a little bit more there. Got some things to put in there yet, but all right, so I'm getting there. I'm not sure it's standing out as much as I wanted it to. I think there's an area in here that needs to be darker. I don't know what I'm going to put there, but I'm going to try to do this. What is that? I don't know. It's a shape that helps the boat stand out. Part of this building or whatever it is back there. Okay. A slight thing there. Yes, this is an involved scene, that's for sure. A lot of objects, a lot of things to paint, a lot of things to think of, and trying to make these things that look like they're negatively painted is even more challenging, because you have to think about those things before you paint around them. Otherwise you paint them out and all of a sudden you don't have them. These are exhaust pipes of some kind sitting here, so they pipe out the engine exhaust. This guy, this is our radar thing. These windows probably need to be darker. Up here in the top. See if I can just, needs to be more paint, I think. So I'm still getting used to these Holbein paints. Learning how to use them better, I think. When you paint with one brand of paint for a long time and then change, there's a lot of learning that goes on there. All right, just a little bit of some calligraphy there to. All right, we've got a few more portholes here. I'm gonna put in. Kind of mess those up a little bit so they look like they're a little weathered. Even these things could have a down here like this. All right. So that door, there's another door over here. Put him in. Change the color. Put a little warm in there, warm it up. That's the thing I forget to do, is to mix my warms and cools. When I watch Tony Couch, he just does it so naturally, and it's like second nature to him, but to me, I have to think about it. All right, so these guys here, I'll put a little bit of a dirty it up a little bit. This thing's not a perfectly clean boat here. All right. See, we could have a little shadow under these steps as well, so that makes sense. All right, I got the deck. I got these big posts here. How are we doing on time? Well, I've been doing an hour. Okay. Let me try this. Radio antenna. Put this in. I'm going to darken some of these things up so they actually look like they got something to them. Yes, it's a boat. Thank you. Glad you can see that. Using this very fine brush to kind of highlight some of the architectural details. This ladder needs to go over this like that. There's another little I don't know what this is. It's like I think it's a life preserver type thing. Sitting there, throw that in. So I'm just putting in some additional marks here to help highlight either the shadow or the architectural part of this boat. There we go. I have another ladder back here I started. Now I have to figure out what I'm going to put on the inside of this, and that's going to go inside that ladder. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to carry this color that's up in front here back this way so that it looks like it belongs to the same part of the boat, except I'm not getting any paint on this thing. Let's get some water in here. Few things here that make it split out. There we go. Okay, this thing here is supposed to be a net. So we'll try to make that look like a net here in a minute. Get this inside this boat laid in there. Okay. Some more stuff here. I'll put a little more brown in it as we get over here, maybe. Change the color. The decking should be probably a little more brown. Maybe. We have a couple of boxes here that they put their shrimp in. Now the hard part of this is going to be these beams. Mixing my umber and Payne's gray. Let's see if I can put one of these in. Maybe this number 4 brush is going to help me some of the fine detail here. This needs to be darker. Yeah, there we go. So I'm using a little bit of wet and dry brush technique here. Lost and found edges, they're called. This guy's gonna... See how that's hitting and missing because I'm using a sort of a dry brush technique, pulling down. Not doing it very straight, however. So I can fix that, I don't know. Alright, so I've got a little bit of a light, left a little bit of the post here beam, a little bit of white paint there. Alright, so that was a nice setup on, there's a whole box of stuff here underneath them that holds them up and locks them in and has motors in there and stuff to run the cables that raise these things up and down. So if I didn't spend time trying to analyze this and figure out how these things worked, I could really be painting this thing so that somebody looked at it would say, man, that guy didn't know what he's doing at all. So that's the reason for just a little bit of research, is to try to make sure you know at least what your painting is supposed to look like. Whether you can paint it to look like that or not is another question, but that's the idea. Okay, so it's looking like a boat. Not bad for a first time, I guess. Okay, let's see. Here we got on this tail end. There's usually some sort of a something going across here, like a so I put a name on there, but you can't read the name, so that's usually a good idea. This net, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that net in one fell swoop or not. I'm trying to see if I can get it. Starts here and sort of goes like that. Needs to be a little darker, but and maybe a little darker underneath. Okay, that's supposed to be a net. Should have a little dark on the bottom. And then while that's wet, I'll come in there and put in some scrapes. Get my blade and sort of help put that curve in there that you need to see to make you think that's a net. Okay. Now, getting pretty close to being finished here, folks. Put a few more. Get this, there's another beam here that goes across. Right here. These things have, these are part of the structure. If you remember that little picture I showed you, they have stuff on the end that lets, they got things that these cables and all this stuff runs through. There's a beam that goes across here. Like this let's see, could have used my masking fluid to paint all this out, or to at least cover it up so that it would scrape it off and then whatever, but I didn't. So I'm really trying the true. There's some sort of things that hang down here. There's things that hang up here. These things hook to. This guy's got some sort of a. All right, this needs a little more definition right in here. What else? My little water, and my propeller. I want him to stand out. So let's put in a few little swirls in there to make it look like there's a propeller in there. Looks like it might be something in there like a propeller, I hope. Okay, so I got a little light areas. I had a little stack of lumber here I was trying to put in. If I can put that in. Some stuff, some more shadows. About getting some more grasses in here. So start helping it look like it's I need to have some other colors here besides my blacks. Get my little spray bottle out here and see if I can soften some of this up. Maybe throw in some this will give it some texture, some wherever I put that water will run. Okay, get some of these colors here and start putting in a few more. This thing's maybe been in dry dock for a while, so it's just something in here to, it'll have a board or something leaning up against this wall. All these little objects just add credibility to the scene, to what's going on here. The area over here, let's see. Over here, this is all, I guess this is all grasses, and I don't have yellow ochre in this palette, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. So I'm just sort of finishing out the this thing. Put a little water in here where this reflection is going to be. See if we can make it reflect down. These colors. Get some more paint here. All right. We are quickly getting to the end of this. I'll put some more darks. I want to close this corner in down here because I don't want you to fly off the page of the down here. Just soft stuff, kind of throw it in. Put a little bit of something here to make it look like we got some water. Something helps tell the story of the reflection there a little better. Just let it pull down. There we go. Now we're getting some reflections. That kind of tell you that should be water there, maybe. How are we doing? Almost an hour and a half, folks. So I'm glad you all stayed with me. I may mess around with this for a little bit more. The thing I haven't done really is put in some of these riggings. All of these. This is where I could really mess it up now, big time. Give myself a very fine number 0 brush here. Let me see what this does. There's a little dot right there. Outline my propellers just slightly so you can see what those are. Put some more. That looks more like a ladder now. That thing goes up, way up on this thing. I'm not sure what they use it for, but I'm sure there's a reason, or it wouldn't be in the design, I'm sure. So we actually usually have some things on the side that are like things where these ropes and stuff connect. So there's going to get plenty of paint on here. Don't want to run out of paint, but I'm going to start up here and sort of put in a like that, and maybe there's a couple that go. Not sure where they go. Like that. Probably got some that come down. Like that. Just throw in a few that kind of help tell the story here. Probably something more in here that could be done to strengthen this. All right, folks, I think I've probably bored you about enough, but want you to see that, and probably needs a little more really darks in there some places. I see this area here needs to be carried over right there. That color, it should be all the way across here. That is the horizon water level, I guess. Okay, that helps it better, helps it. I might put a little more time in this. I may put a few more calligraphy marks in here and some stuff, but I think I'm going to sign off. You've been very nice to stay with me for an hour and a half. I hope you've learned a few things, and hope you'll give this a try. May not be your favorite subject to paint, but it's always good to try to teach yourself something new and learn something new. And so with that said, I think I'll zoom out here and tell you thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you give it a try, and let me know how you do. Put some comments in my video, the sketches down below. I'll put the grid out there. I don't think I have it out on my website, but you should be able to get this done with a 4x5 grid on 11x14 paper, and it should be fun for you. Try those symbols, try those negative painting aspects of this, and work on that value patterns. Take a look at that. That's really something that Tony Couch preaches. It's in both of his books, and it's very valuable for people trying to learn how to paint, particularly to get a good dynamic painting. You need strong darks and good mid values and light values to all work together. So I could probably spend more time on this for sure, and but I really appreciate you being here. Check out my Facebook page. Leave me some comments. If you like my paintings, send off to your friends and tell them you found somebody that you like the way they paint. Maybe I'll get a subscriber or two. And if you want to buy one of Tony Couch's books, there is a link to my Amazon account down below, and you could check that out and see if you want to buy one of those books. I think they're very worthwhile. I highly recommend those books because I've learned so much out of them, and I use them to teach from. Okay, that's all I want to say for now. So until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye. Whoops, get in there. Probably have a few more things here. Hard of an edge. Okay. Thanks, Lindy. Back of the boat needs shadow. You're probably right. I put a little shadow on there, but it didn't get enough on there, I'm sure. In here, this area. Probably a little too much, but that's better. Put a little more on this. There we go. That looks better. Makes more sense. Yeah. It's hard to see some of these things when you're up so close. All right. All right, I will sign off and say, see you next time, folks.